Hey guys, I'm Emily Grace Kersey, and this video is all about some of my most embarrassing moments as a Broadway dancer. Hi guys, I'm Emily Grace Kersey, and I'm a musical theater performer here in New York City. I'm also the founder of Broadway Bound Initiative, which is a one-on-one mentorship program for dancers pursuing a career on Broadway. Yes, and I will talk much more about Broadway Bound Initiative at the end of this video, but for today, I wanted to share some of my most embarrassing moments as a dancer here in New York City. There's a lot of them, so I chose 4 for you today. Maybe I'll make this a series because I think it's kind of fun. So yeah, I've been a dancer here in New York for 6 years now, and I have done pre-production rehearsal for Broadway shows, for off-Broadway shows. I have done regional theater gigs. I was in Cats on Broadway. I don't even know how many auditions I've been to, but it's a lot. I think I'll start from less cringeworthy to most cringeworthy with these stories. So the first one I want to talk about is embarrassing, but not like I wanted to crawl under a rock and die. That's the last one, so stay tuned. The first one, I was in Cats on Broadway, and it is a very dance-heavy show. It's very physically demanding. You're flipping, you're jumping up and off of set pieces, you're climbing down set pieces. There's a lot going on. So I had this moment in Rum Tum Tugger's number where he's downstage, center, spotlights on Tugger, and I push a cat out of the way and I do a penché like right in front of him to catch his attention. And at this point I had been in the show for about a month, maybe a month and a half, and so I felt very comfortable with the track. I felt, at that point, I felt like I knew what I was doing, like I was kind of owning my, my version of this track. And so I went into this penché like any other day. You just PK into it. For those non-dancers out there, a penché is where you step onto one leg, the back leg comes all the way up so that you're making like a 180 line with your body from standing leg to leg in the air. So I go to step into it, and there was a huge puddle on the floor. It was a very hot day, and with a demanding show like that, you're bound to sweat a lot. You're wearing a unitard and fur, so there was just a big old puddle of sweat downstage center. Sure enough, I stepped right into it, and as I step into it, my foot slipped out from under me, basically landing in a split. I was kind of in shock. The next part of the dance, I'm on the floor anyway, so I just kind of like rolled over and started to lift my leg for the next part. But I was like, oh my God, I am on a Broadway stage with a full house, a full audience in front of me, and I just fell on my... Now you fully wiped out on a Broadway stage. So I didn't want to like crawl in a hole and die, but it was also just kind of like, oh my God, I can't believe that just happened. So that's what it means to make it on Broadway. My next story is from an audition for a show that was like one of my first New York City auditions. I wanted to be in Chicago on Broadway for the longest time. My entire first like 2 years living in New York City, I thought that Chicago was going to be my Broadway debut. I was like, this is the show I'm going to be in. I am so right for it. Looking back, not quite right, especially at the time. I looked very young. Even, I think I just looked young for my age, and just like not like a murderer. So needless to say, so I was in for Chicago. I was in for the national tour, and this was like, I think my first full summer in New York auditioning. And I was at a callback, so I had gotten through the first cut, and I had danced, and then they were asking us to sing. So I brought, the song I chose for this audition was just not right. I was singing 50% from Ballroom, which is like the song that this older woman sings in this show called Ballroom, which is, it's a beautiful song. I sang it in college, and so I was just like, well, I guess I'll sing this. So I was singing Ballroom, 50% for Chicago. Not right. So I sang it once for casting and for, I don't know, the music director, whoever was there from the music department. And they were like, okay, let's take it up a step. So we took it up a step, and that was fine. It's a low song. And so I sang it, and they were like, okay, let's just take it up a step again. So another step, we went up. I was like, okay, still belting, but also kind of like reaching for those higher notes in the cut that I had. And then they took it up like 2 more times, and by the last time I like cracked like no other. I've never cracked that badly before or since. And I was mortified because I was like, I'm totally booking this tour. And even after, I think I was still convinced, like, well, I mean, they heard all of the 5 other times that I sang the song, so like it couldn't have been that bad. I've never been in Chicago. But yeah, I was mortified, but I was also kind of like, how rude. Like, why are we taking this a step up like 5 or 6 times? It was a wild experience, and I was new to the audition scene, so had never experienced anything like that before. So be prepared to take your song up if you go in for Chicago, or be prepared to say no, that's too high, and that's not where my voice sits. That's okay to say in an audition too. I was just naive and didn't know how to handle the situation. So yeah. Okay, this next story is also from an audition, a little bit more cringeworthy, at least in my eyes. I went in for 50 Shades of Grey when it was off Broadway. I can't remember if that's what it was actually called, or maybe it was just called 50 Shades. And there was like, I think there was like a dance equivalent of, what's her name? The girl, the lead girl in 50 Shades, whatever her name is. Isabella? I don't know. No. So there's like a dancer who portrays the female lead. And so I had done the dance portion of the audition, and fine, great. But they had sent us sides like a day or 2 before. I had never read sides in any audition. This was also my first year in the city. I never read sides at an audition and didn't really know what it meant to read. Like, I didn't know how it would go once I was in the room. Like, where do you look? What do you do? And so I had not memorized these lines. I had printed out the paper. And so I took the paper in, and there was a scene partner there for me because there was somebody else involved in this scene, and they were going to read with me, and I was introduced to this person. I had no idea if I should look at this guy who's sitting in a chair. Also, like, the stage directions said that she was on her knees at some point, so I didn't know, do I go on my knees? I did, don't worry. So we start reading, and my hands are shaking, and I'm just staring at this paper. Not looking at anything else, anyone else. I'm like trying to incorporate some sort of any type of acting choice, acting anything. it was awful. And I knew it in the moment, which just makes it worse, because then you're just like, you're like watching yourself crash and burn, and it just was really embarrassing. But it was my first year in the city, so like nobody knew me, whatever, who cares. Takeaway from this is know your lines, interact with your scene partner, because that's what acting is. Yeah, not good, not good. All right, here is my most cringeworthy story as a dancer in New York City. I don't know if I will ever top this. Still to this day, it makes me want to crawl out of my skin and leave the room. I was so mortified. So, I was asked to do a day of pre-production rehearsal for City Center's like off-center production of The Wild Party. Sonia Taye was choreographing, Al Blackstone was assisting her, and he was the one who had asked if I was available. And so we were in the room and we were like working on movement for this number that features Burr? No. What's his name? I don't know. Stephen Pasquale was playing this character in the City Center production of this show. And so I didn't know that this was going to happen, but after like an hour of working on the choreography, Stephen Pasquale came into the room to kind of like workshop his part of the number. And first of all, I knew who he was. I had watched numerous YouTube videos of him and like obsessed. He's so dreamy, so freaking talented. And I was just kind of like, oh my God, Stephen Pasquale is here and we're gonna like dance around him. And I was just like, this is so cool. So the song is called Let Me Drown. And there was a bathtub on like a moving platform that we were kind of like wheeling him around on. There were 4 girls. We were around the bathtub, moving him around. He was in the bathtub. So at one point, we had to like thread our arms through his arms. So he was like standing like this, something like that. And we had to thread our arms up and kind of grab a hold of his shoulder. So we're doing it, and I go up, and my hand feels something wet. And I was like, oh, that's weird. And I take my arm out, and he's going like this. And I start laughing because I thought my finger went up his nose. And I was like, oh my God, that's so awkward. Like, oh. No, turns out I had poked him in the eye. I had fake nails on at the time, so like they were long and just really, the fact that I felt wetness means that I like really got in there. Mortified. I was like, I'm so sorry. I didn't know what to do. I'm sweating right now thinking about it. I was sweating. I couldn't say sorry enough, and he was fine. The way he reacted was really fine. I'm sure he was like, who on earth is this person that just poked me in the eye? He was very lovely about it. And yeah, I poked Stephen Pasquale in the eye, and he will never know how bad I felt about that. Like as we were leaving the rehearsal room, Al Blackstone was like, I bet you didn't think today would go that way. I was like, nope, I did not expect to assault one of my favorite male performers. So there you have it. Those are 4 of my most embarrassing stories as a dancer here in New York City. There are so many more, and maybe in the future I will share more of them with you. I hope that this just brings you peace in knowing that literally everyone goes through so many awkward, uncomfortable, embarrassing moments, because that's life. and we're all humans just going through life. So don't take it too seriously and maybe make a YouTube video about it later. Before you go, I want to tell you a little bit more about Broadway Bound Initiative. It is my one-on-one mentorship program that is made for dancers pursuing a career on Broadway. And we talk about literally anything that they need guidance on. We talk about finding agents, we talk about networking, we talk about setting a vision for your career, we talk about figuring out your type in the industry, how others see you versus how you see yourself, and getting those ideas as close to each other as possible. So a lot of great stuff going on. If any of that interests you, please check out my website below, Broadway Bound Initiative. I am currently accepting new clients, so if you'd like to do a free 30-minute discovery session, just submit the form on my website below and we will get talking. Also, if you're a dancer in New York City and looking for a sense of community, if you're looking for a safe space to ask questions, ones that you're scared to ask on Audition Update, then please check out my Facebook group called Broadway Bound NYC Dancers. I post about resources that can help you. We answer questions, any types of questions that you have. If you're just feeling lost in this industry, then join Broadway Bound NYC Dancers today. Link below. I hope this video was fun for you to watch. If you enjoyed any of these awkward, embarrassing stories, give it a like. And if you don't want to miss any of these videos that I'm posting on Fridays, make sure you subscribe to my channel. I hope to chat with you one-on-one. I hope to talk with you in the comments. I hope to see you at my Facebook group. Have a great weekend, and I will see you next Friday.